Animesh is already arrived, so he's coming. Okay? So you can now give a huge round of applause for Animesh. Okay. So before, okay, you can keep it further louder, yes. Okay. Is it okay now? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. So before Animesh will start his session, I would like to give a brief introduction about how Animesh has came to this particular place and from these seats to this particular place, right? So he belongs to Odisha, Angol district, right? So he has pursued his schooling from DAV school, Kalinga, right? After pursuing his school, he has done B.Tech from Computer Sciences, right, from NIT Rourkela. Currently, he is also serving Information System Officers at IOCL, which is also a very prestigious job, right? Now coming to the most important area, which is UPSC Civil Services. So this is his first attempt. So you can now give a huge round of applause, right? So securing second rank in his first attempt, itself a very important feat that he has already achieved. So his optional is Sociology, about which he will also talk about a lot, right? So today UPSC has released the marks also. So in the mains, he has scored 892 marks. Another opportunity for giving an applause. In interview, he has scored 175. And regarding essay also, his score is one of the highest score, right? So now it is famously said by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, like, if you want to shine like sun, first you have to burn yourself like sun, right? How many of you have heard this? So Animesh is the greatest example of this, right? So I know everyone came here to hear a lot of things from Animesh regarding his preparation strategy and all. So I would not like to waste a lot of time of yours. But before giving the stage to Animesh, I would like to Smriti ma'am to felicitate Animesh regarding his success, please. You can give a huge round of applause again. Energy can be further high. So Animesh, the stage is yours now. So you can guide student about everything, right? So thank you. Congratulations once again. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, before I start, thank you, Vision Eyes team, for giving me the opportunity to share my happiness as well as a strategy with everybody. And 3 days back, I was at your place at the other side of the table. A lot of these things that I would be saying now are becoming advices after I've bagged the rank 2 in UPSC Civil Service 2023. But I was going through the same fear, same anxiety, and same doubt that you guys might be having. And before we talk about my strategy, my preparation, and my story, take this as a pinch of salt, as we all have our individual stories, we have our individual upbringings. So it's not just the 2 years of preparation that I had done, but also how my school, my college, and how I was a person, and how my family nurtured everything. So that would culminate into something that I have become today. So a lot of things might not get applied to you. I'll just share the essence of it, and maybe you can take most of it and any part of it if you could apply, and if that helps you, I think then the motto of today's session gets fulfilled. I'll give a brief introduction. As I said, after I graduated in 2021 from NIT Rourkela. I have a graduation B.Tech in Computer Science and Engineering, and through campus placement, I was placed in Indian Oil Corporation, and from October 2021, I've been posted in Indian Oil Refinery headquarters in Delhi itself. And this was my first attempt, and I feel too overwhelmed. I'm full of gratitude, but I'm still processing this. I might not be very coherent while speaking because it's too new for me as well. I never thought that I'll be speaking about my strategy because I was always doubtful about what I was doing, but I'm really thankful that I was in the right place and right things fell into right place at right time. So the structure that we would follow is prelims, mains, and interview. Along with that, a bit of a backstory is that not to garner any sympathy, but just to be true to my own story. The last 2 years of preparation had been extremely difficult on a personal front. Right from December 2021, my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, and I lost her last month. So this entire journey had been difficult, not just for me, but for my mother, and she had to go through a lot physically and mentally. And in spite of that, she was my biggest inspiration, my biggest and my best friend. And I had lost my father a couple of years ago. So it was extremely daunting on an emotional and mental front. I have been on therapy for 2 years now, and the day before the results came out, I had my counseling therapist session as well, which is something I will not shy away from accepting, because UPSC as a journey becomes too lonely that we tend to push away people, and that's when you understand the importance of support system. So no matter at what position you are in, keep your support system intact, because life gets uglier and it can get more uglier than you can imagine. But I would like to believe there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and hope is a very beautiful thing, and you need to attach yourself to that beautiful element. So having given the context about my professional circumstances and personal circumstances, I would like to share my strategy and my sources and the nuances and intricacies of my preparation. So I had always decided to prepare for UPSC right from childhood. So I had always, with this mindset, very fixed that I'll take up a job because I needed financial independence, and with job I will prepare for this. So I had seen a lot of topper videos. I had seen what books are to be followed right from 8th semester of my college or so. But I had not started preparing per se. 8th semester I might have purchased Lakshmikant or had seen couple of pages, had read them. So I was in that mentality that I'll start preparing. And after I joined ISCL, I had started preparing, but then after 2 months, my mother got diagnosed. So there were a lot of breaks, there were a lot of emergencies, a lot of emotional and physical trauma that we have been. But I had been consistent throughout this 2 years. And since we knew it was a terminal cancer and we did not have a lot of time, so I wanted to do that as soon as possible so that she could see this. Unfortunately, she could not, but that was a major fuel to do this in the first attempt itself, and I'm lucky that I was able to do that. So as I said, I had a lot of idea about UPSC sources and everything, but my full-fledged preparation started in January, February of 2022. And then it's mostly 2 years, my interviews in January, and that's when I had stopped preparing after that. So I'll come to prelims first, the resources, and no, but let's come to like mains, like what I did from February. I think that would make more sense. So I had enrolled in one of the mentorship programs in one of the institutes, which had no classroom coaching per se. I had not enrolled in any classroom coaching, neither online or offline. But I had enrolled in a mentorship program that would give me a module which was weekly current affairs. that they had a program called Samachar Manthan. So they would give me weekly PDFs of current affairs, and there used to be weekly tests on Sundays based on that. So right from February, mid-February, mid-March, I had started giving tests. Those are 125 marks based GS questions based out on that particular PDF of weekly affairs of that particular week. So, and that's how I started making notes as well. And I had this formula that I would start making notes topic wise from the syllabus. So every topic should have a note in an A4 sheet paper. I used to make handwritten notes. And organically my notes were made because I was following this weekly PDFs of current affairs. So for example, there's an issue about tribal issues for a particular issue, then tribals is something that's a part of the syllabus. So I'll had a fixed format for most of the GS topics. So I'll write what is the issue, what's the brief introduction or context to that, what are the problems attached to it, what are the government initiatives, what are the international initiatives to that. Along with that, I would ensure that I would have 2-3 data points. I would have one committee recommendation, I'll have one quote attached to it, one Supreme Court judgment attached to it, or any constitutional amendment or any constitutional article which is related to that topic. So this was common for most of the topics that I was able to. I mean, obviously history and geography are something which would have a nuanced a different format, but most of the things, be it internal security, governance, polity, disaster management, science and technology, environment, this was mostly a format where I would have the value addition material ready. Like it can't be just the notes, but also these value added material of Supreme Court judgments or recommendations of committee, so on and so forth. And I would make the notes in a way so that I can reproduce the same thing in the exam. At the end of the day, I had this idea that I would strategize it in a way that I have to clear the exam and not just to read the book or gain some knowledge, which obviously is a primary product to it, but secondarily, you have to understand this is an exam and you have to strategize so that you can write the same things in the paper. So my A4 sheets notes were something that I had read like multiple, 4 times, 5 times, I would have revised so that I'd be so thorough with that, so I can just reproduce the same thing in the exam. So I'll have a notes, for example, on coral reefs that would have things like a quote related to it, let's say for an environment, or what are the issues with coral reefs, how coral reefs are formed, a diagram attached to it, government initiatives, international initiatives, any committee recommendations, any case study that has been done, best case internationally and nationally. So this used to be there in 1-page PDF, and if there's a question related to coral reef, I just reproduce the same thing that's there in my notes. Obviously, addressing the demand of the question, making tweaks here and there, but mostly what's there in my notes. So topic-wise notes were made for all GS papers, so that that will have the actual content, but also the value addition material, because I think these value addition elements make a lot of difference, because every mark counts here. So those value addition materials are extremely important. So till December, from February to December, I used to give every Sunday a test. I would have given around 48 to 50 mini tests. These were 125 marks tests. So this is how organically my mains notes were made. Plus my answer writing got improved because I was giving tests every week. So I did not have to sit and decide when I have to do answer writing, on what topic I'll do an answer writing, because my answer writing used to be a Sunday test based on whatever I read as current affairs for that particular week. But half of my day would go with this, and half of the rest of the day would go in reading any static book. For example, Lakshmikant or Spectrum or R.S. Sharma, these very standard books that most of us study. So half of that would be reading this and revising this over the course of time. So December was still this, but till November and December, I had to figure out that what topics I had missed out, because obviously there would be a lot of topics that I would not have touched out because of those PDFs. So I used to refer in the month of November and December for mains 365's 2022 edition, although I was preparing for 2023, and by that time you would not get the mains 365 released. So previous year ka 2022 mains 365 would follow for topics like internal security, disaster management, science and tech, or governance, polity, and see which areas I have missed, and those I used to make notes in the same format that I just discussed. So till December, this was my entire GS preparation. So most of the topics were there in my notes. And then January, this continued till December, mid-January, and January was a month. Back at home, my sister got married, so 15, 20 days went there. So after that, I came back in February. Until February to May was prelims exclusive thing. I had forgotten that some mains exist. So prelims was the only focus. Most of the resources remain the same standard books which I'll discuss, but those remain the same. So that went on to be followed from February to May, coupled with a lot of test series. I had done for prelims, and second I had done Vision's prelims test series as well, religiously 30, 35 tests. So in total, I would have done 45, 35, 45 to 50 tests. And I'll also discuss how I used to do my test in due course of time. But for all those months, I used to do this test, revise the answers, make notes of the answers, revise them multiple times, and then prelims happen. So now talking about prelims sources, we'll start with polity. Polity had done Lakshmikant. For history, ancient had done R.S. Sharma, old NCRT textbook. For modern, I had done Spectrum. Medieval, I couldn't do a lot. I had taken a coaching material which is very thin, 75, 90 pages of medieval India, which I did not do a lot of times, which I regret now. But that's what I had done. Art and culture, I touched at the very end compilation of certain coaching materials. I could not go through very famous Nitin Singhania's book because I found it very bulky and I was out of time. But I did some of the art and culture in the last month, like the famous current affairs that's going on, GI tax, about that, dances, or music, or think festivals. So very common themes that are asked in art and culture, so that I do not miss out on if there's an easy question asked in art and culture. For science and technology, the current affairs that I had used to the main source, but apart from that, Vivek Singh sir's economy, where he had this book. So I had followed his book, which is written in a very lucid manner and very comprehensive way. And economy was a subject which I used to find very difficulty in, and every time I used to find it difficult, I used to just Google or see a YouTube video. And he has also a book called 550 MCQs that gets updated every time before prelims. So I would have done that multiple times, 2 or 3 times before the prelims. For geography, I had done NCRT's 11th and 12th. This was more or less the GS like book list, but apart from that, in the month of March, April, May, I felt that my current affairs knowledge is inadequate, which I think everybody feels, which is true, but that's why I read 10 months magazine of Visionaries as well. I did not do PT 365 because during those 3 months I followed 8 to 10 months of complete monthly magazines, and I had made notes out of them and had revised them multiple times as well. March to May, I had done Visions magazines of last 8 to 10 months. Regarding newspaper, since I was working, I did not have a lot of time. Initially, when I had started my preparation, I had read newspaper for a month, mostly the editorials and some of the burning issues, but I could not continue with that. That's why I just switched to coaching magazines, but this is something that you can choose and see what suits you. There's no substitute to newspaper. That's a lot of people say. In my personal experience, I had to get away with it because it used to take a lot part of my daily schedule. So I did not follow newspaper for prelims and mains, but interview, obviously, I had to follow the newspapers. So this is all about the book list. So we'll take a break and ask if you have any doubts so far, and then we can get back to prelim strategy. If not, then we'll, yeah.
So, firstly, congratulations for getting a good success. My question is like we all know the basic sources, Lakshmikant. Every one of us follow that. But what's make you different? Like how did you follow those sources that make you the other way around uh,
Correct.
for reading Spectrum and Lakshmikant?
True. So for example, I'll explain this giving the example of Lakshmikant spectrum. Lakshmikant something that I thoroughly loved, but Spectrum something that I had a love and hate relationship with. I did not like the book at all. Lakshmikant, I think every time I used to read that, it used to feel very new because there's so many intricacies. Every line has something which is very different, and you could be easily confused. But I think that organically that grows. I would have read Lakshmikant for 6, 7 times, but not really. Like the first time would take a lot of time, but seventh time it's mostly the underlined part and the highlighted parts. So I had made notes out of Lakshmikant as well, but very brief notes. After I had read like 3 times or 4 times of Lakshmikant, I had made polity notes of 7 pages or 8 pages. Only those things that I understood that I will forget, or which are very tricky, or I'm making mistakes in. So those will be the things that I will make notes of polity. So out of those 8 pages of notes, I would make 2-pager notes also, which I would revise just before the day of the exams as well. So this I used to do for majority of my subjects. I used to make notes, but not like then and there only, basically for prelims. But after I'd read that source multiple times, twice or thrice, and to understand what part of it still I cannot internalize, those I used to make notes. And then those crisper note will get even more crisper in 1 pager or 2 pages, so that I can just glance through them just before the night of the exam. Because I always felt that before prelims, you have to be in that zone of like a lot of data, a lot of knowledge has to be there, a lot of metadata, everything has to be there, so that you're in that zone of answering. So I wanted to keep myself brain full of all those information just before 1 or 2 days of exam. So I had made this 1 pager notes for everything so that I can just glance through them. For Spectrum, especially, I found it difficult to memorize and internalize a lot of facts. So I used to see a lot of YouTube videos. For example, there will be tribal movements in India, or there are socio-religious reforms, which are very intricate. There are a lot of information that has to be kept in mind. The names would be something that are not very common, so you cannot internalize. So I used to see YouTube videos for the concepts which I feel it's too boring to read from book. And there's no because everybody reads Lakshmikant, everybody reads Spectrum. So there's always a pressure that this is the right source, this is the right way to do, but there's no right way to do. If you find it difficult to go through Spectrum, then find an alternative to that, find an animated video that would make you understand that, so that you can remember and retain for a longer time. But all of the sources I had revised multiple number of times. So I think that was the way that would have made a difference, I would say.
Thank you so much, sir. One more supplementary question. Like for reading Spectrum, as we have seen, 2023 exam was very tough for all of us who have attempted. So keeping that in mind, like if we see modern history and Lakshmikant, they both have some areas where the questions were some out of the text.
Correct.
So and in like Spectrum, specifically modern history, there are some spaces which we don't find in Lakshmikant, and they are, if they are hard to remember in some lot of lumps that we have to remember. So how did you cope up with that?
So obviously 2023 prelims was something that gives me nightmares still today. So including CSAT. But I would say that I agree that if you see number of questions that you would be able to solve from Lakshmikant 2 years back as compared to last year got decreased. But Lakshmikant is something that everybody reads. So even though there are only 4 questions that can be solvable with Lakshmikant, everybody will be able to do that because it's at the end of it, it's a competitive exam. So you cannot get wrong with those things which everybody is more comfortable with. So even though it gets more tougher, you cannot leave with these very standard books, because those 2-3 marks or 2-3 questions will make a difference. Obviously, it was not possible to answer. I had done a lot of mistakes with polity and history as well. Even modern history, number of questions decreased a lot. But since I had done ancient, I would say fairly well. So I was able to answer a lot of ancient questions. Medieval I had not done properly, so I did not answer a lot of medieval at all. But I think ancient compensated for the lack of modern history questions that came this time. So that's also a point that do not leave ancient and medieval and art and culture, because it's usually the norm that the cost-benefit ratio is very less. As in, if you see that way, the cost-benefit of Lakshmikant is also becoming lesser, but you cannot leave it. So similarly, you cannot leave completely ancient and medieval, be it any source, because there's no fixed source for such bulkier subjects where everything can be under the sun. Like everything under the sun can be a part of a question. So, but at least have a basic source, be it Tamil Nadu textbooks or old NCRT or new NCRT, whatever it is. But have a source and give that its due importance as compared to the other subjects that we usually give.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
So many more congratulations to you. As part of Odisha, I am personally proud of you. And जब से आपका रिजल्ट आया पूरे ओडिशा में हल्ला मच रखा है कि सर आए हैं. सर जस्ट हैव माई अपॉर्चुनिटी कि मैं ओडिशा से, तो मैं आपसे पर्सनली पूछ सकती हूँ कि आपने ओडिशा के ऊपर कैसे रिसर्च की थी एज योर टाइम ऑफ इंटरव्यू. एंड लाइक जैसे आपने ट्राइबल मूवमेंट के बारे में अभी बार बार बोला, तो ओडिशा में अभी हाईएस्ट नंबर पॉपुलेशन है ट्राइबल का, तो उस बेसिस में जैसे पर्टिकुलर थीम आ जाती है, साइक्लोन हो गया ये सब, तो मैं उस पर एड ऑन कैसे करूँ या फिर रिसर्च कैसे करूँ पर्टिकुलर स्टेट को लेके?
Sure, we'll discuss about interview in a more comprehensive way, but I did not have a lot of time during my interview because my interviews was in the first week itself. So I had 21 days for that, and like that was also a time when my mother was very sick. So us time pe I used to Google everything, and there's a small group of people who were from Odisha who were appearing for interviews. So that was a group that was formed and used to divide the topics, and that's how we make notes and share the notes across, and that's how we had done for that. But we'll discuss about interview in due course of time.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I'll take one more question before we move to prelim strategy of test series.
Good evening, sir. Sir, my question is that in the mains examination, we need to make a notes each and every topics. For example, there is a topic of president, and in the topic of president, there is a lot of content is there. For example, discretionary power of the president, relations with the council of minister, and lot of things is there, sir. How to make a note in A4 paper?
Correct. So for example, like you cannot make A4 sheet में only president के ऊपर notes, but things around president can have notes. For example, pardoning powers of president and the issues with it will be one topic, and emergency and role of president in that would be something. President rule is something. So look, president rule itself is something which is associated with president, but also then it's a different topic. So when you say president, so there will be 10 different things around president, and then all of these things will have its own notes. That's what I meant when I said in one A4 sheet. For example, election is such a very diverse subject. So elections will have history of elections in India, and then reforms, election commissioner and election commission, problems with it, what are the reforms that's needed, what are the reforms in elections that has happened, criminalization of politics. So these are the areas which revolve around elections. So you'll have like 4-pager notes of everything around elections. And those will also have these value-added material of Supreme Court judgments, committee recommendation, good international or national use cases, or any quotes by any eminent personality related to elections or something. So this is how my notes would look like.
Many congratulations, sir, for your incredible success. Sir, my question is that in recent 2 to 3 years, the current affairs section linked with the static portion, तो उसको कैसे tackle करना है, like?
Correct. So I think the monthly magazines do a wonderful job, because, for example, when there's an issue, let's say some MP gets disqualified from a parliament, so it's always that news. But that's the reason why I did not study newspapers, is that they'll just put the news, or max they'll just say ki with this rule, if it's mentioned a rule book, or if it's a part of that constitution ka ye part, on basis of this MP has been disqualified. But coaching will give a context to it, that what are other ways in which MPs can be expelled, or what are the next opportunities that the MP can have if any such situations has happened, what was the course of action. So that's why I say that like coaching institutes would then link the current and static. So I think there are a lot of gaps in those PDFs, but I think that was my major source of linking static and current.
ओके सर, मेरा एक क्वेश्चन और है कि सर फियर ऑफ मिसिंग आउट रह जाता है, तो उसको कैसे तो टैगल?
I always had the fear of missing out because I was preparing alone. I was one working aspirant. I did not know any community or something that I was a part of. But then at the end of the day, you have to believe yourself. But it can't be just philosophical. You'll have to also see actual your progress. And I think test series is the way in which you can track your progress. And if you see that your marks are not improving or you're making the mistakes again and again, that's how you'll feel that if then there's something that you're missing out on. And then you'll have to capitalize on the fact that what is that you are missing out on. And if you see that you're having a steady progress, then probably you're doing it right and you're not missing out on something. So I think that tracking of your performance through test series is also important.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So we'll take a last question there.
Many congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, when you talk about A4 sheet, so like in the first place, when you when you started your preparation, did you start off with going about topics one by one on A4 sheets, or like was this a phase after you were done with your classes?
So I had not taken any classes. So, but then I did not, like, if there's, I'm doing GS1 and there are a lot of topics, I used to not make like, acha, today the topic number is this, so I'll make notes out of this. I would not do that, but I used to follow that weekly current affairs. So whatever current affairs usse would come, I'll make notes, and organically it became ऐसा कि उसके ऊपर it got organically filled up. But last के 2 महीने में I had to figure out कि what are the topics that has been left out, and then consciously I used to use internet and main 365 of last year 2022 to fill on those areas in which organically नहीं बन पाए थे notes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So we'll go back next to prelims test series. So the first question that a lot of people ask, and I had also the same curiosity, that what's the right number of test series that you have to write in. I think there's none. It's up to you to understand that you might take 20 tests to reach a level of satisfaction, and you might take 60 tests to do the same thing. But what's important is at what rate you are progressing, and if you are capitalizing on the mistakes that you are doing or not. So initially I had done a lot of sectional tests as well, and then I went to full-length tests. I had started giving tests in mid-February or end of February had started, but that used to be once a week. And then later on in the month, like initial weeks of May, it used to be like 2 tests in a day as well. So, but then what I used to do with the test is that I'll give the test. I used to not then, I'll just evaluate and see the marks. And then I used to not see the answer keys. The next day I would come back to the answer keys. And then I had a separate notebook for test series where I will mention the new facts that I had gotten, plus any older fact that I knew but I had made a mistake. That meant that this has not been internalized within me. So I had a separate textbook for most of the GS topics. So I used, for every sectional or full-length test series, I used to make separate notes for them. And once I had made the notes, those notes were very crisper. Only the data or any fact or any particular new information would be that note. And I would revise those for 3-4 times before the actual prelims had happened. So I used to then analyze. A lot of people say analyzing your test. I'm not really sure what does that mean, but for what I did is that for me it was majorly to track 2 things. One is that my overall marks, and second, how am I doing with my educated guesses? Because max to max there will be 35 to 40 questions on a good day that you would be really sure of. And apart from that, everybody does educated guesses and you have to do it. But it's not like you're just randomly putting answers, but there's something you'll have to make sense of a lot of things, and then you'll be able to answer. So I used to track down how many of these questions that I'm doing right. And if I'll think about a time that why did I make it wrong? What was the reasoning? Was it that I was very overconfident, or was it just I was very careless? So that I used to also track on an Excel, that how am I improving over the course of time. My marks should improve, and number of mistakes I'm doing in those educated guesses value questions should decrease. So these were my two parameters that I used to follow while tracking if my test series, my performance is improving or not. And later on, I had given Abhyaas 1, 2, 3 prelims here in Vision Eyes also, which was a simulated test, which was pretty wonderful because mostly it gives you a ranking. And since I was preparing alone, there was no benchmark for me to understand whether even I'm doing right or not, because 100 in a test series might mean that you are at the bottom 50 because everyone might score 150 in that test. So Abhyaas is something where you can judge your competitiveness, and I'm not sure if you're sitting for 2024 or 2025. Okay, so not 2024, right? So you still have time, but write as many simulated tests as you can. I know a lot of people would have given these simulated tests in multiple coaching institutes, but I had given only Abhyaas's Vision ISS simulated test. So that's something that you also go and see a lot of people writing tests around you. It's a government school that you go to. So it gives you a real life experience of that. But then coming to something that's everyone should talk about but are not talking about is CSAT. I was somebody who did not study about CSAT, and today the marks have come in, have scored some 84 or 82. I still have not, I'm not sure, I'll have to check again. But at that time I thought that this is very thin margin, and I must have done some insane accuracy because I had attempted only 37, 38 questions, and I'm sure that I'll not make it through. But probably my accuracy was extremely fine, so that's why I was able to do this. But the problem is, majorly people coming from engineering or science background will become very overconfident with maths. And this time the maths reminded me of JEE Advanced and JEE Mains questions. And this is something, and what happened is that in Abhyaas 2 or 3, I had scored very less marks in CSAT, 76 or 78. And that gave me a reality check that I have to let go of my ego. It does not matter if I come from a top tier engineering college, I cannot just hook on to maths, because I had this thing that I will be able to solve it. So no matter how much time it is taking, with maths I'll be able to score 100. And I used to think that's my cup of tea. But that gave me a reality check, and then I understood that if I'm not being able to answer a maths question, I'll move on to English or move on to other maths question, because at the end of it, you have to score 2/3, 66 or 67 in the paper and not 200. So in the actual paper, what happened, the maths was extremely tougher, at least tougher for me. So in the first 15, 20 minutes, I was able to bubble up only 2 or 3 questions, and then that's when I realized ki, nahi, today I can't, nahi hoga maths. So completely my focus went to comprehension. I tried solving most of the comprehension questions and couple of reasoning and very less maths questions, obviously. So, but then for you, since you guys are appearing for 2025, 2026, have a dedicated strategy for CSAT. I'm not the right person who can give you one or can share with you, because I did not have one, but give it the same kind of importance that used to give to GS. The cutoffs of GS has come down to 75 point something, and that's majorly because a lot of seasoned player, a lot of brilliant people could not make it through because they could not score high in CSAT. So that is something that you cannot ignore. Do not keep it till the last month or last 2 months. Start something now. It's not that you have to start right away, but maybe 4 months time you can start solving answers. Take a course if you can. There are a lot of free courses as well, free materials on YouTube that you can do. So CSAT is something that you have to give more focus on, and you'll have to be more cognizant of the fact that it's getting tougher, and there's no point in crying and cribbing after the exam is done, because you know now it's tougher, so you have to start acting upon it. So this was what about the prelim strategy. And one more thing, how many questions one should attempt is usually the question. There's no right answer to it. A lot of people with insane accuracy do 70, 75, and a lot of people do 95 to 100, scoring the same marks. But I was somebody who initially had a problem with accuracy, so I used to score, like do 90 plus questions initially, but then when I saw that my accuracy is improving, then I used to stick to 85 to 90 as a benchmark rule. But in the final prelims exam, since it was the pattern changed and a lot of questions, the way the questions were asked were pretty different, I was able to do 82 or 83 questions and I could not go beyond that. So, but it's that you'll have to understand that whether your accuracy is good or your accuracy is not good. So that comes after you do 15, 20 questions, you understand what is your comfortable zone. So, and while you're answering also, you'll be able to answer that whether you're like you are thorough with your educated guess or not. So you'll get that sense कि इस टेस्ट में 80 to 85 ही होंगे या फिर किस में 95 to 100 करने पड़ेंगे. So that comes in after you do multiple test series. Since I was a working aspirant, I did not have a lot of time. I had done 35 to 45 test series tests, so which I found it enough. But back then I had this fear of missing out as well, that might this, because I had heard a lot of people saying 70, 80 tests, which as the process is very individualistic, you can figure out if a lot of time. You should start MCQs solving practice from right now as well. There used to be a lot of coaching institute that used to come current affairs based MCQs on their websites that gets updated daily. Or during the prelims, they used to do PYQ based test series, like 5 tests in a day. That's something that's very fun to do. You can always, when you're scrolling something, you can do that 5 question, and you can build a habit that you do that every day. So that is something that's important, that be in that zone of how to do the MCQ right from now is something that can develop, but with greater intensity during 3 or 4 months before the prelims. So this is where the prelims thing happen along with GS and CSAT. We'll then talk about mains, and I'll say the mains resource list that I had followed like per paper wise. But before that, I'll just also mention that there are a lot of free resources that I had followed for prelims. The way that how much meta knowledge you have, how generally aware you are a person. I remember there are a lot of questions that I had solved because, not because I had read it somewhere because of UPSC, but in general things. Like I would have read it in a book, any random fiction book that I would have read, or something that I had seen in an Instagram reel, so for which I was able to answer, or a Netflix documentary. There was a question on National Handloom Day, was in August 7, and it's celebrated because that's when Swadeshi movement started. August 7 is my mother's birthday, so we had this conversation a couple of months back that this is your birthday and this is why it's celebrated. So a lot of real life experiences and how generally aware you are as a person, that also helps in prelims, because they're not checking what's your meta knowledge you have, and it's not just those bulky pages that would have gone through Lakshmikant, but how generally aware you have and what's your common sense. So keep your eyes and keep your brains open and try to grab up knowledge and materials wherever you can. But obviously keep your materials very concise. The study material that you have decided, that has to be very concise, and do multiple revisions out of it. There's no fixed number of revisions, and you can do it as many times until you feel satisfied with it. Next we'll move on to mains. As I said, most of our mains notes were done by December and mid-January. So in those 3 months, I still had office. I did not take leave then as well, except for the 2 weeks while I was writing mains. So I just revised those notes, but I had not done couple of topics like post-independence or world history or disaster management few portions. So I complemented my notes with those remaining portions. But apart from that, I had given 12 tests. I had written Abhyaas, all the papers, essay, GS 1, 2, 3, 4 here at Vision as well. So I had given 16 tests now, like after prelims for mains GS. And also I had given some full-length tests before prelims happened as well in the month of November and December. So those were some sectional mains. I had not given many, but 6, 7 tests I had given for mains as well. So cumulatively I would have given 21, 22 mains full-length tests, apart from the weekly tests that I was giving every week for 48 to 50 weeks. So I had done an insane amount of answer writing by giving and attempting tests, which used to be evaluated, and then I used to improve upon that as well. So coming to resource list, for GS1 art and culture, what I did is that I had downloaded, since it's a very static subject, I downloaded the previous year test series of Vision, read the question answers, and I made notes in the form of question answers. So there would be questions about Mauryan art and culture, Gupta art and culture, Harappan civilization art and culture, Carnatic music versus Hindustani music, folk arts of India, festivals of India, and religions of India. So all these things used to get covered in these test series itself. So, and since I used to follow like 5-6 test series of last, like 3 test series of one institute each for last 2 years or so. So a lot of my material got internalized through question and answer, which I did for art and culture. So this was my primary source for art and culture for mains. And then for geography, I did the same thing because I found it extremely difficult to write answers for geography, because geography is something which you can write just in an 2-liner or a 3-liner answer, but you have to fill it like 2 pages and 3 pages. So I consciously started going through this test series of Vision. So those I used to read and make answers and write it down, so that I used to, my practice would happen by reading those in the format of question answer. So I had made a booklet of 50-60 questions for geography, which I would have read from these test series. And knowledge obviously I had because prelims had read NCRT, so the concepts were clear, but to put it in a more structured way with diagrams and the format that I mentioned. So this is how I used to make geography notes for mains exclusively, because it has to be in a question answer format. Then coming to society, since my optional was sociology, I did not do a lot for society, but before 1 month of the exams, I had made 4-5 pager notes of quotes on all the subjects, committee recommendations, and Supreme Court judgments, or best use cases, or good examples, so on and so forth, so that I can do value addition across the paper of society. So this was more or less the GS1's resource list. For GS2, polity and governance, as I said, most of my notes were already made organically, and that was my primary notes. And I used to do the value addition with mains 365 for polity and governance. So that used to be my major resource for mains for GS2, both for polity and governance. And for GS3, economy, I had the same thing. I had made my notes through Samachar Manthan and then got it complemented with mains 365. So I did not read the mains 365 2023 comprehensively, but 2022 I had visited very properly because I had made notes out of them. 2023 I used to just glance the pages which I thought that isse maine kuch bhi notes nahi banaya, so I'll have to put that in my notes. This was economy, and then for science and technology, I'd focused mostly on mains 365 of 2022 and few portion of 2023. And then we have environment. Similar, I had made my notes through Samachar Manthan, complemented with Vision materials and Vision test series as well, like of let's say 2022 or 2021, I would have gone. So for, and apart from that, internal security, the same way. But for most of the subjects like internal security, disaster management, environment, which is extremely vast and a lot of dynamic questions can be asked, I had followed a lot of test series, mostly of Vision and a lot of other free test series that's available on internet. So I had followed 2021 test series and 2022 test series to just read through the question and read the answers, and just note down any important point or something, a good use case or example or good argument that's not there in my notes, and I used to put that up. So a lot of my mains preparation was done through Samachar Manthan, mains 365 and Vision's old test series. So that's how whole in a comprehensive manner I had prepared for mains, and during that time I had given around 16 tests for GS during prelims to mains. Coming to ethics, GS4, I can't recall what was the book that I had read, but there was a time when I started preparing ethics, so it was a very thin book, but I did not make any notes, nothing. I just read it to understand what D.K. Balaji sir's book, but I'm not sure. But I had read that and glanced through and had read for a couple of days. But then what I thought that I have to make my own notes, because at the end of the day, ethics is not like something very conceptual that you have to understand, and it's not very technical in nature. But there are a lot of nuances attached to it, and you have to have some ornamentation, beautification around it. So for ethics, what I did is that topic-wise, I used to Google, and there used to be random coachings or otherwise I'll get the website's content, and I used to make 1-pager, 2-pager notes out of that for each of the topics of ethics. But apart from that, there are 2 Telegram channels that I had followed. One is of Jayant Nahata, he was AIR 56 of some year, and Divyanshu, he's also in IS and from Tamil Nadu cadre, his Telegram channel. So these are, and Shruti Sharma ma'am's Telegram channels. So these 3 channels had their own content related to ethics with best use cases, examples. I used to copy the entire the resources of these 3 Telegram channels and to put into my own. So for every topic, I had an example, I had a quote, use case, best use case or example attached to it, so that I can replicate that in exams. But what I additionally did was that I thought that since I come from, I had sociology as an optional, I understood the importance of thinkers. Similarly, here I wanted to make ethics look like more academic. So I went on and there are a lot of YouTube channels. I think it's called, I'm not really sure, I'll put it in the comment section when this video comes out, but they had this compilation, 3-4 minute clips of a lot of philosophers. So I had seen those clips and made one-liner notes, what do they mean? So it's not just the usual Aristotle, Plato, Hegel, those philosophers, but a lot of them, around 15 to 20 philosophers and their ideas in 2-3 lines, where I used to put them in a lot of ethics answer, so that it used to feel that it's not just ethics but also philosophy, and they have a lot of convergence, so that it would feel like the answers are pretty academic, and that would, I believe, could have fetched you more marks. And also I had used a lot of GS content, GS knowledge, all these value addition material of Supreme Court judgments, committee recommendations, so on and so forth in ethics also. And apart from that, all these Telegram channels I mentioned, they had a compilation of best quotes segregated by different qualities and topic wise of ethics. So I had made I just replicated the same compilation of quotes, and I had memorized most of them so that I could just repeat them whenever a question around that comes. For case studies, I did not do a lot of it because I did not have a lot of time, but all my case study practice happened while I was giving the test series. I'd have given 4 tests of ethics. So that's when, and I used to improve on the feedbacks that I used to give. So case study also, I used to have this very simple template. I don't know why do people hype up case studies a lot, but it's not that complex. It's just that the introduction has to be catchy and not that like very mundane per se. You can use your GS knowledge by introducing that particular case study with a relevant information, relevant context that you would have studied in GS. And then you'll have to follow the demand of the question by answering why this was done, what are the alternatives, and what is the reasoning behind doing that, and what are the consequences, and what you would like to do. And then the conclusion can be again something more academic, which will have knowledge from your GS content. So a lot of your GS content can be fed into both the part, like the part A and part B, the case study and the general questions of ethics. And that's how I think the ethics preparation can be. So this was the resource list of mains. I'll take a break, and if you have any questions about this, then we can.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Many congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
And sir, as every sociology optional students are asked to refrain themselves from using sociological touch in GS answers, and do you believe in that? And if you do, and how to keep a check on that?
I was given the same advice, and I had used in couple of questions the answers, the concepts of it. For example, I think there was a question on marriage where I would have mentioned one of the thinkers as well, but not very liberally. Like out of, let's say if there are 8 questions in society, I would have mentioned 2 thinkers in total in overally. That's what the advice was given to me. I do not know how right or wrong this is, but I had kept myself in check. It feels easier to mention a thinker because it feels that, okay, the examiner would know that I know this. But since I was given this advice by a lot of people, I did not follow. So I'll not be able to answer the other side of the story.
Thank you, sir.
So first of all, heartfelt congratulations.
Yeah.
Heartfelt congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
My question is how to revise current affair notes. Like there's lot of facts, and it becomes quite hectic to revise all of that with static portion. And next is if I have to give my prelims in 2025, from which month current affair I should start?
I'll answer the second question first. In my opinion, 12 months of current affairs is fine. A lot of people say 24 months, but if you have time, you can do a bit more than 12 months. But I did 10 months of monthly magazines of Vision IS. So I'd say 10 to 12 months is still okay. And how you have to revise is the same way. I used to make notes out of the monthly magazines as well, but after having once or twice reading of it, so that I do those notes, those portions which I know that it's difficult to memorize or difficult to internalize. So that's what I did for current affairs. I also do not run behind a lot of things about current affairs because it's a lot, and there's a limit to which you can, to things that you can remember, and it's difficult for everybody. But do as much as possible, but that is beyond your control. And I would always believe control the controllables. What you can control is a static portion, so be extremely thorough with that. And current affairs, do it properly, but do not stress out ki I do not know this fact, I do not know this report name. Nobody knows that, and at the end of the day, it's a competitive exam.
And sir, one more question. How to manage UPSC preparation with office life or with college life, as you are also preparing with office?
Correct. So, I mean, you have to take some smart strategies. For example, I had taken a rented house, which was like a walkable distance, 10 minutes away from my office, so that I do not have to go through traffic. Secondly, I used to have this 5-minute, 10 minutes break that I used to mention. I used to plug in my earphones and listen to any YouTube content. So that's second. And third is that, and most important, that you have to accept that it's something that you have chosen. Like, I stopped cribbing or crying ki full-time aspirants are at a better advantage than me and they can study more, because this is something that I have signed it up for. And you have to make time for yourself. You'll have to do bigger sacrifices. You cannot hang out more. You have to sacrifice your vacations a bit more than full-time aspirants. But I was able to take out 5-6 hours every day. And since I knew that I have limited time, so I was able to make the best utility of those smaller availability of time. So be more focused with the limited hours that you can put in.
Sir.
Yeah.
Firstly, congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, I just want to ask you that all of us are taking coaching, and we have bunch of books and like Lakshmikant and Spectrum. So our teachers provide our best material. So the coaching notes are enough, just like governance or internal security. Our teacher says ki the coaching notes and the current affairs are sufficient. So for the bulgy subjects, coaching notes are also enough, or we have to rely on the Lakshmikant and Spectrum also.
So since I have not taken any classroom coaching and have not followed any coaching notes, I might not be the right person. But I understand that you are in your right hands and you are in a reputed institute. So, I mean, they would have a tested and tried method. If they do so and you believe in them, then it's wiser to follow their strategy. Because I had not done that, and commenting on that would make no sense. Thank you.
Hello, sir. Sir, Sir, how did you make notes from the mock test, and how did you revise all of them?
Correct. So is like those notes were not very bulky because most of my preparation was done while I was giving the mock test. So I used to just make the notes of things which I found was either tricky, second, which I thought that I knew but I made a mistake in, or third, there's a new piece of information. So one test series there used to be 3-pager notes, like point-wise, just information, which I think if I'll upload it now, nobody would be able to understand, but it's something that's very personalized the way I had made those notes. So just the things that I felt that I need to revise it again. So what I used to do that after that, I used to revise those 3-pager notes per test series 4 times before prelims. So I had revised the notes of all the test series I had written at least 4 times before I had attempted the final prelims.
So sir, now what is happening? Like I give the test and now while revising it, it takes me almost 4 hours. So how to do it? Like
so since you have started doing it, it might take you a little longer, and it's wiser to spend some time with your tests, because at the end of the day, you'll have to give a test and not just read a new piece of material. So it's wiser if you're taking 4 hours, that is okay, but that 4 hour will be cut down to 2 hour, 2.5 hour. And up to a point, you cannot analyze the test in 30 minutes. It will take time. It's 100 questions. Each question taken at least 1 minute also more or less gives 2 hours. So it's fine if it's taking you that much time.
So how overall, what was your revision plan? Like you had a job and there was how did you maintain then consistency and how did you revise it?
Correct. So my revision plan was this, that for example, I had my day where if I'm reading for 6 hours, I used to read 2 or 3 things. Like for example, there's one is my optional, and then there's one if I'm doing Samachar Manthan, the weekly current affairs that I'm doing, and another there's a static portion. So I used to make sure that every time the static portion is, I'm associated with the static portion. So if I've done Lakshmikant in the month of February, then I would revisit it in the month of June as well. And then I would revisit it in the month of September again. So this is how, because I was always in touch with a static book, not just कि prelims के लिए पढ़ना है या फिर mains के लिए पढ़ रहा है, but to read that book and underline that. फिर second time when you're revising, just read the underlined part. Third time पे only read the highlighted part. Third time, fourth time, I had made my notes, and then I'll revise those notes and then make a crisper note out of that is what was my revision strategy.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, sir. Here I am. Here, sir. Left side, second last row. Okay, so sir, apart from the all the material and everything, sir, one of the major bull in the house is the pattern, which is changing in UPSC. So the questions, such as the only one and only two type of questions. So can you please suggest me some strategy or mindset on which I can attempt those questions and have a good chances of correcting them as well? Because those questions are really confusing, because you know that first statement is correct, but you have no clue about the second. So how intelligent guess that was to attempt that question or to left that totally?
I mean, since I just had the opportunity to do that for one test, I had not tried and tested, so I do not know whether what I'll say actually works or not. But my advice is to be, do not stuck upon ki essay questions and difficult hai. Next year, there could be a different pattern of questions which could be even more surprising. So the bottom line is, be comfortable with surprises. And every year, the pattern is evolving such a way, and none of the students, none of the coaching institutes will be able to predict what would be the next year of pattern. But some, like for example, last year paper also, there was a lot of, for example, assertion and reasoning questions, or 1 is true, 2 is true, 1 is true but is not the right explanation, 1 is true but and 2 is the right explanation. A lot of times 2 was wrong. So that would give you the right answer itself. And it happened with a lot of questions. And a lot of people felt that it's difficult because you have to note both the facts and understand whether it is an explanation or not. But in most of the questions, the second fact was itself wrong. And a lot of those facts were very common sense based as well. Like the amount of exports and imports India does, or questions about Switzerland and diamonds and things like that. So those are things that you can tackle. And then for 1 question is right, 2 questions is right, 3 questions right, I think there's a lot of luck involved in that, because there would be there were cases in which I had gotten the advantage of it and disadvantage of it, because probably I would have thought that 1 and 4 are right, and that's where two of them are right. But the case might be 2 and 3 were right and 1 and 4 were wrong. So still I would have gotten the mark for that. So it's something, it's unfair. I understand it's frustrating. And but the point being, try to make as less mistakes in them. Do not make wild guesses in those questions. If you find it difficult to tackle those questions, then try to capitalize on rest of the questions more. But that at the end of the day, you will get some advantages because of these evolving patterns as well.
Also, sir, would it be good if I attempted maximum number of questions or lesser number of questions about which I am totally sure about? So
Even though you're very sure about, I would say ki a benchmark of 80 is something that you should follow. Because a lot of people say ki some people in 70s may also they have an insane high accuracy, but I believe that is outlier. So in my opinion, 80 is something should be the benchmark, but a lot of people do 90, 95 plus as well, because then your chances are because it's like 1/3 negative hai. So you'll have to do 3 negatives to compensate for the maths will work in such a way that there will be some risk that is okay to take for you to take. So in my opinion, 85 to 90 is a safer zone, which was very personalized to me. You will able to figure that range for yourself when you give multiple tests, and you'll understand that I as a person is not very good with accuracy or good with accuracy. But having said that, in my opinion, less than 80 is too risky.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, sir. Here.
I think I'm blind, but...
No, sir. Yeah. Good evening, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I have a different question, sir. Not about these materials and all. I have the question ki, what made you come into the stage कि जिसलिए हम लोग नहीं आ पाते हैं. ऐसा कोई भी रीज़न होता है ना कि टॉपर्स जिसलिए टॉपर्स होते हैं और हम लोग नहीं क्वालिफाई कर पाते हैं. ऐसा कोई भी एक क्वालिटी जो बिल्डअप करना चाहिए.
But I'm pretty sure I will be texting you congratulations next year, because I mean that's the belief that you have to keep in yourself. But having said that, I understand where this is coming from, and this is a very genuine question that every aspirant goes through. And to be fair, I don't think any of the people who had come at this side of the stage would be actually very sure what has worked. And for me, this was my first attempt, so I don't know what mistakes I had made, and how, if I had improved upon that, I would have gotten something better. So I did not know what really worked. But for me, what I felt would have worked is, one, my answer writing practice, because I had done insane amount of writing because of those mini tests and full length tests that I've done. So it's very thorough with writing. So that one, and B, I was very consistent with that, what I was doing. So that being second, and third being very creative and not be just following something which has always been done. Like for example, it's not always the spectrum only that would help you to cover modern history. Be flexible. There are a lot of resources. You can have an alternative resource, but stick to that and do multiple revision. But if nahi ho raha ek source se, then find another source. But you will have to just at the end of the day gain knowledge, and not just ki spectrum ही पढ़ना है या लक्ष्मीकांत ही पढ़ना है.
सर बात पढ़ाई का तो ठीक है, पढ़ाई तो हम लोग कर लेते हैं सर. नो, सॉरी इफ आई एम इंसल्टिंग यू, आई एम नॉट सॉरी. बात ये है सर, ऐसा टॉपर्स को भी होता है क्या कि बिल्कुल पढ़ने का मन नहीं कर रहा है तो पढ़े ही नहीं.
हाँ, there were days I had not studied like a lot, and for me since
just मन नहीं कर रहा है इसलिए नहीं हुआ है.
Yes, a lot of times, and I would have taken breaks during that time.
Okay.
I mean, there used to be times, I'm a Big Bang Theory fan, so I used to see that TV season, मन नहीं करता था, I used to like 4-5 बार I used to revise those series बार, and it's natural, but एक दिन नहीं वो, second दिन नहीं वो, third दिन नहीं वो, fourth day you have to come back.
एग्जैक्टली. और एक बात, जैसे कि हम लोग प्रिपरेशन करने आते हैं तो पहले क्वेश्चन ही किया जाता है कि आप व्हाई डू यू वांट टू बिकम एन IAS. तो ये क्वेश्चन का हमको कोई आंसर ही नहीं मिलता है. हमको मन किया, सर आई हैव बीन प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर लास्ट 2 years. और हमको आज तक ऐसे लगता है कि हमको बस मन किया था, हम आ गए, हम पढ़ रहे हैं, बस और कोई आंसर नहीं है मेरे पास.
I mean, there's no more beautiful answer than this. आपको मन कर रहा है. I mean, that's the end of the line.
Exactly.
Bottom line, period, खत्म.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
I mean, everybody's like choices of coming to this exam could be different. It could be just because it's interesting. Like अच्छा लगता है subject, अच्छा लगता है profession, अच्छा लगता है society के लिए कुछ करना, whatever it is.
Exactly.
जो भी मोटिव है आपका, अगर वो आपके लिए स्ट्रांग है, then it's well enough.
इसके बाद एक वो आता है ना कि अगर तुम्हारा इतना ही मन था लेकिन फिर क्यों पढ़ाई नहीं हो रहा है, ये सर these things are irritating a lot these days because पढ़ाई हो गया है, ये सब से नहीं निकल पा रही हूँ. यार please stop laughing, it's a serious questions for myself.
I understand. It's just that everybody is relating to that. That's why we had a laugh. Nobody is laughing at this.
Okay.
But it's the thing is कि at the end of the day humans, and it's not fun to read 1857 में कौन कहाँ से आके किया. और also एक बार जब नया चीज पढ़ते it's fun.
Exactly.
But उसी same चीज को बार बार पढ़ना is difficult. And second, we're not studying in a school कि हर कोई पढ़ रहा है हमारे और. There are friends and there are people who are not studying this. Or for me at least, I had my entire colleagues and my friends who used to chill every evening or weekends पे जाते थे मनाली घूमने के लिए. But I could not, and this is something that I had signed up for. But it's also natural कि मुझे खराब लगता था उसके लिए. But also think कि अगर होता है तो what difference it brings in. But the process will be boring. It's a boring process. All the subjects, Lakshmikant, spectrum, or everything. After one point, नहीं होता interesting, and that's a fact. And the acceptance itself brings वो कि boring चीज़ों से ही marks मिलते हैं. So at the end of the day, it's a exam. उसके लिए exam, but exams are never fun. And if you're pretending कि fun होगा हर रोज, then you are fooling yourself.
Sir, my last question. What's your advice कि UPSC में अगर नहीं हो रहा है 1 साल, 2 साल, 3 साल, तो टिके रहना चाहिए या कुछ और सोच लेना चाहिए?
I mean, this is a very valid question which I had thought I'll touch upon. For me, I had made up my mind that I would give 3 attempts, and I had not signed up for 2024 because my mother was in ICU at that time. But ये था कि मैं 3 साल दूंगा, and नहीं होता है तो then I'll think something else. I had a plan B because I was already employed and it was pretty well-paying job, तो ठीक था. But I was not sure if I'd have done this forever. But मेरे हिसाब से यू हैव टू प्लान कि आपको 3 साल देना है, 2 साल देना है, 4 साल देना है, बट या फिर 6 साल देना है, बट दैट प्लान हैज टू बी डन. एंड यू हैव टू मेक प्लान कि हु विल फाइनेंस दैट, और वेदर मेंटली आप उसको उतना एंड्योरेंस के साथ ले पाएंगे या नहीं, एंड कौन होगा आपको सपोर्ट करने के लिए, एंड इफ देयर इज अ प्रेशर एट होम तो हाउ विल यू कन्विंस देम. सो वो प्लानिंग होनी चाहिए. बट मेरे हिसाब से दिस एग्जाम should not be made your entire life. It's easier said than done, but I had made this exam my entire identity, my entire life, जो कि मैं चाहता हूँ कि लोग ना करें. It should be a part of your life, very important part of your life, but not your entire life. मतलब बोलते हैं कि take this as an exam, but नहीं होता. We cannot take this just an exam. It takes a lot from you. So it's just not an exam. It's a lifestyle and it's an ambition, aspiration. But plan कि 3 साल के बाद नहीं होता, have to do something else. Otherwise, this is a prime years. You cannot lose on something which you do not have control over.
Thank you, sir. Many best wishes.
Many congratulations to you, sir. I'm also from Odisha, and for
which place are you from?
Jharsuguda, sir.
Okay.
So you are the inspiration for the Odisha's people, and for the next 2 years. Many congratulations, sir. I want to ask you one question about the CSAT perspective. That if one has the problem regarding the mathematics, he can able to focus on the comprehension and reasoning by skipping the mathematics.
No, I had a different opinion. CSAT is evolving in nature that you never know कि next year English could be something which will become very difficult, or maths would become very easier. So you cannot take any portion of CSAT for granted, be it reasoning, maths or English. So you have to be prepared for 3 of them. You can prioritize कि ठीक है पहले मैं reasoning करूँगा, second English, third maths, or any of your order, but नहीं, you cannot leave any of these completely. You have to prepare for 3 of them.
Hello, sir. Many congratulations.
Thank you.
Sir, you come from a technical background and still you say you get nightmares of your prelims. So related to CSAT, I want to ask that people like me who have fear from mathematics, so is it necessary to go at JEE level, that the level of question is coming? So उसमें क्या उतना level जाना की ज़रूरत है mathematics में?
I don't think JEE level के all the questions were JEE level, although there were claims that few of them were directly copied from previous JEE questions. I'm not sure how authentic that claim is, but for me it felt like अगर ये questions मैं 12th के time करता तो I would have done it. So it felt that way. But since it's getting tougher, तो वो mindset भी होना चाहिए कि I'll be able to cover that. अगर my benchmark is कि मैं यहाँ तक ही पढ़ के जाऊँगा, उससे एक level आएगा अभी तो ऊपर I won't be able to do. तो इस वजह कि CSAT में हम पहले से ही मान लेते हैं कि मैथ्स छोड़ लेते हैं या फिर इंग्लिश छोड़. फॉर मी आई हैड थॉट कि बिना इंग्लिश के हो जाएगा, विच इज़ अ वेरी रॉन्ग माइंडसेट. तो मे बी JEE लेवल को ऑब्वियसली नहीं पढ़ना पड़ेगा, बट यू हैव टू प्रिपेयर एंड देयर आर लॉट ऑफ फैकल्टीज रिसोर्सेज व्हिच आर कमिंग दैट कैन प्रिपेयर फॉर, बट प्रिपेयर करना पड़ेगा. आई एम नॉट श्योर बिकॉज आई हैड नॉट प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर CSAT, बट छोड़िए मत कोई भी पोर्शन को.
So one last question. Being an undergrad from University of Delhi, I find it very useless to go to college and invest my time there. So the students who are pursuing graduation, let's say I'm in second year, and I have always seen my life as a UPSC aspirant. I want to do that. So जो बच्चे अभी graduation में, I'm targeting 26-27, तो अभी से किस तरीके से उसके लिए prepare कर सकते हैं? Coaching अगर लेना है तो किस समय तक ले सकते हैं, एग्जाम देने से कितने समय पहले तक, और जो अंडर ग्रेजुएट में है उसको किस तरीके से स्ट्रेटेजाइज करना चाहिए अपने कंपटीशन में? थैंक यू.
Yeah, so I have a different opinion to this. I do not know how the attendance policy in due, but for me at NIT Rourkela, 85% is strict attendance. 85% was for NIT Rourkela. So, but I had thoroughly enjoyed my college life doing all extracurriculars, academics. So I did not spend a lot of time, but to each is own. But do not waste your college life just कि आपको UPSC aspirant हो आप. That's the same thing. Do not make this your entire life, because फिर वो haunt करता है आपको. There are times when I had hated myself for having the dream of signing up for this exam. कि उसके अलावा और कुछ दिखता ही नहीं. It feels like यही है aspiration. इसके अलावा जो भी करूँगा it would feel lesser or I'd be a loser, which should not be the case. तो आप अपने कॉलेज लाइफ का which is a bigger part of your identity उसको भी overshadow कर देंगे with UPSC. So then I think that's something that you should not do. You can have a balance. It's easier, it's better to get a head start college से ही, but do not make this as your entire routine. Spend time with your friends, build a social life in college, because at the end of the day, that will be the bigger support system to fall back when you'll go through a rigorous process. I won't be able to answer because I did not take a coaching classes per se. I had started full-fledgedly 2022 से 2 साल पहले, but उससे पहले I knew कि resources क्या है, क्या पढ़ते हैं, syllabus क्या है, and as a person I was always very aware politics, society, economy को लेके, तो it did not feel very difficult when I started. So it's very personalist कि आप as a person and कैसे थे school में, college में, so that also helps. Yeah. So we'll take last question and then we'll go to interview. I mean, A, B, C, D, choice is yours. Whatever is the right answer. We'll take the question here. I was a first bencher, so I have a soft corner for first benchers.
Hello. Congratulations, sir. I just want to ask you about the accuracy percentage that you initially got, and while as the exams got nearby. So what was your accuracy percentage? And plus, with respect to the educated guesses, what was like your accuracy?
I don't remember the exact percentage, but they kept on declining. For example, if I'm doing 85 questions, then initially there would be times when it would be 25, 30 would be right. But then over the course of time, it became 50 and 55 were right and rest are wrong. Or uske baad it became 60 and 25, 27. के रेशियो में. So by end also it was like कि अगर if I'm attempting 85 question, तो 55 and were right and बाकी were wrong. I was not very good with prelims answer writing, and I don't have a tremendous score. The cutoff was 75. I have a score of 86, 85, 86 in GS1. So, but still, I think that would do. Also, I'll take one question. I'm sorry, I was just kidding. I'll take from there. We'll read, like talk about optional, obviously, thoda length mein.
A very good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, can you share insights about how you used to structure your answers? Firstly, how to interpret the question, and then once we have interpreted the question, then how to start with the introduction. Like there can be different introductions for different kind of questions. So what kind of introduction will suit what kind of question, and then how to conclude the answer. And then, sir, secondly, at what stage of preparation we should start preparing for essay writing.
Correct. So I'm sorry we had missed essay and sociology, and we'll discuss that. But for the answer writing, very good question. There used to be a lot of discussion कि question अगर है कि elucidate, explain, and these directive words. And I believe इसका importance है. But for me, I did not go through a lot of materials, and I could not differentiate कि इन directive words से क्या कैसे explain करूँ. हाँ, obviously there's something called criticize, then I'll criticize. उतना है, but then बहुत nuances, differences है. I'm sure there's a video of Smriti ma'am that I had seen, but I could not follow it to a larger extent. But वो देखना important है कि आपको सिर्फ पूछा है कि advantages, तो आप सिर्फ advantages ही लिखो, ज़्यादा advantages लिखो. Negative एक line का लिख सकते हो. If आपको पूछा है criticize, तो वो criticism should be थोड़ा ज़्यादा आके उभरना चाहिए. So that's how you understand the demand of the question. And कभी-कभी होता है कि how does पंचायती राज help in social justice? So उस पे the major focus should be कि आपके हर line पे वो आए कि पंचायती राज and social justice. आप पंचायती राज के बारे में पढ़ के आए होंगे and उस पे कैसे help करता है different groups को, वो पढ़ के आए होंगे. पर आपका आंसर ऐसे स्ट्रक्चर होना चाहिए कि वो बार बार एग्जामिनर को वही बार बार आप याद दिलाए कि राइटिंग पंचायती राज हेल्पिंग सोशल जस्टिस, पंचायती राज हेल्पिंग सोशल जस्टिस बिकॉज दिस, इट्स हेल्पिंग बिकॉज दिस. सो ऐसे क्वेश्चन में आई यूज्ड टू स्टार्ट लाइक द इंट्रोडक्शन. आई यूज्ड टू फॉलो कि इफ देयर आर 20 क्वेश्चंस तो डाइवर्सिटीज लाऊं मैं अपने इंट्रोडक्शन में. ऑल ऑफ माई इंट्रोडक्शन इधर हैड टू बी ए कोर्ट और अ सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट और अ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट का कोई एक्ट और एक गुड एग्जाम्पल और बहुत नहीं कुछ नहीं आता तो डेफिनेशन. दैट्स लाइक द सिंपलेस्ट थिंग दैट यू कैन डू. एंड बट आई यूज्ड टू एंश्योर कि द डाइवर्सिटीज इन माई इंट्रोडक्शन ऐसा ना लगे कि हर क्वेश्चन में सेम ही लिखा है, हर क्वेश्चन में ये आर्टिकल, सेकंड क्वेश्चन में भी वो आर्टिकल ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, थर्ड में वैसा. सो मेक इट एज डाइवर्स एज पॉसिबल. So this becomes introduction in one line max. Then,
sir, giving context as a part of introduction, how will that be?
So the context you can give if the context is needed, but if the question is too straightforward, so you do not have to give a context to it because you're not writing an essay and बहुत कम time होता है. It's 7 minutes max. So किसी question में context might be necessary अगर बहुत abstract है, but if it's a very direct question, then you can directly jump into what it's being asked. But the context could be one line of committee recommendation, not committee recommendation, but one line of article or one line of quote, which would be apt to that context. And then if the question is how this is helping, X is helping Y, so you have to answer in a bold way, X is helping Y because. That's when the examiner also feels कि जो पूछा है वही लिखा है, इट्स नॉट कि x के बारे में भी लिख दिया, y के बारे में भी लिख दिया. सो मेक इट अ बोल्ड सेंटेंस कि x हेल्प्स y बिकॉज, एंड देन आई शुड राइट डाउन मोस्ट ऑफ माई GS आंसर्स पॉइंट वाइज. एंड फिर अगर उसका देयर इज अ साइड एंगल टू इट ऑल्सो कि नहीं देयर आर इश्यूज विद x एंड y एक साथ को एग्जिस्ट करना, आई मेक अ डायग्राम जो कि बहुत स्मॉल पार्ट है बिकॉज वो डायरेक्ट पार्ट नहीं है क्वेश्चन का, बट कुछ ना कुछ है उसका कॉन्टेक्स्ट उसमें. सो आई मेक जस्ट एनी रैंडम डायग्राम उधर ताकि स्मॉल स्पेस और टाइम जाए. एंड देन कंक्लूजन हैज टू बी कैच. यू कैन नॉट हैव अ जनरल conclusion because competition is tougher. वो half mark will make a difference. So either have a catchy phrase. There is to be like Viksit Bharat or any honorable prime minister speech के बहुत सारे phrases आते हैं that he talks in मन की बात और थिंग्स लाइक दैट. तो वो एक कंपाइलेशन था मेरा कि वेरी डाइवर्स है, वो कहीं भी डाल सकते हैं. सेकेंड इज SDG गोल, जो कि इफ यू रिमेंबर दैट देन वो बहुत जगह यू कैन अप्लाई. थर्ड इज कमिटी रिकमेंडेशंस. मोस्ट ऑफ माई क्वेश्चंस इन इकोनॉमी और environment or polity governance had this committee recommendations and everything. So वो अगर आप हर टॉपिक के लिए बना लेंगे ऑर्नामेंटल वाला चीज़ें, तो यू कैन पुट ऑल दिस इन इंट्रोडक्शन कंक्लूजन, आपके रेडी हो जाएंगे. एंड फॉर स्टेटिक टॉपिक्स लाइक डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट, इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी, सोसाइटी, जिनके मोरलेस क्वेश्चंस वही है सोसाइटी के, इधर ग्लोबलाइजेशन है और थिंग्स लाइक दैट. डिजास्टर में इट्स लाइक दोज 10 डिजास्टर्स, तो उनके ऑलरेडी आप कंक्लूजन इंट्रोडक्शन बना के रखिए कि इफ इट्स एन अर्थक्वेक तो अर्थक्वेक का इंट्रोडक्शन इज दिस, कंक्लूजन इज दिस. इफ साइक्लोन द इंट्रोडक्शन इज दिस, कंक्लूजन इज दिस. तो ये बिकॉज एवरी ईयर देर आस्किंग द सेम थिंग्स ओनली. तो इतनी अगर प्रिपरेशन पहले फॉर इवन इंट्रोडक्शन कंक्लूजन हो जाती है, then you'll be able to sail through.
So sir, in these questions introduction will be mostly definition based?
No, for example, अगर पूछा है कि what is earthquake and why is it happening in Himalayas, then you'll have to write what is earthquake. But लिखा है कि Himalayas is prone to earthquakes, explain. So you can write कि X% of earthquakes happening in the world happens in Himalayas. So that should be your introduction, ना कि earthquake के बारे में you write.
Okay sir.
Yeah, last question with this.
हाय सर, जय जगन्नाथ.
जय जगन्नाथ.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन ये था कि सर मैंने ऐसे आपका पढ़ने के बाद मुझे लगा आपकी तरह जो ऐसे लिखने के लिए मुझे 2-3 साल लग जाएगी.
नहीं, I'm sure you'll be able to do. I'll tell you how it.
सर ऐसे का कैसे प्रिपरेशन करें इसके लिए?
We'll discuss essay then अभी. So essay is something that and that's your question. Essay writing कब start करना है? I don't know. I had written 1 or 2 essays in the month of December. Did not get it checked. Essay लिख दिया था because I was bored. But actual essay I had started writing after prelims result got out, and I had written around 8 to 10 essays and had got them evaluated. But for essay, what I did is that major आपका content would be GS. That's for sure. But there's this one video that I had found on YouTube free में 50 philosophical quotes जो कि that you can use in various contexts of essays that is very flexible. I mean, I remember putting them in a topic of women's issue, poverty और democracy या फिर बहुत ही philosophical topic पे as well. So uska I had make 3-4 pages and that I used to use liberally. Then what I used to do is that कि उस time पे between prelims and mains I used to read every day past topper year copies के mostly vision uploads past year papers of toppers. तो उनके essays 1 या 2 पढ़ता था या फिर office में also lunch break होता तो पढ़ता था and I used to put screenshot लेता था उनका and I used to put them in Evernote. And Evernote का ऐसा had made us long list of beautiful snapshots of past year essays. कोई अच्छा use figure of speech है, alliteration use क्या है, quote use क्या है, introduction use क्या है, conclusion. So जो I used to पढ़ के जो अच्छा लगता था those paragraph, those I used to paste. So essay I had around 100 pieces of good things that I had taken and उसको I had used in multiple of my essays. And then one more thing that is that which I found it difficult was make my essays coherent. So you have to ensure your essay ka every paragraph has a connection, something that would have a connection in it. Usko matlab if you had explain something, then next paragraph mein likhe ki since we talked about this now, don't you think that it also makes a difference in this? So usse pata chalta hai ki there is some continuation to this. So this is how you have to make your essay coherent as well. So that's how my essay preparation was. But also one more thing, that most of essays I used to send to my friends, both school, college friends, who had no relation with UPSC. So those people used to give me a very fresh perspective, and they used to check कि boring तो नहीं लग रहा, interest बना रहा है कि नहीं. So that is also something that you can try कि essays, apart from the conventional coaching and conventional evaluation, you can share it with your friends, family, and ask them कि if they are feeling interested, because the examiner at the end of this is a human. So अगर एक usual human अगर interesting नहीं पा रहा इसको, then the examiner also will find it dull.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, last.
Good evening, sir. other than the conventional sources like NCRT and Lakshmikant, how can we incorporate reports like ARC and down to earth other things in our answers? So
yeah, so also I'll put it this way that initially I had also thought that ARC reports padne honge, Niti Aayog reports. I had bought them, but I could not study. What I had done is that there's main se pehle, a lot of coaching institute come with these compilations of best use cases, committee reports, recommendations, Supreme Court judgments. Everybody does that. So I had also purchased few of them. You can purchase them directly from shops or unke coaching websites also. So वो compiled already मिलते हैं. So you do not have to go, if you can go through ETS reports or Niti Aayog reports or ऐसे best cases, so you can. But before mains के 2 महीने पहले, all these coaching institutions come with their compilations.
And one other thing, कि dimensions को सर कैसे include करना है answers में? Like एक mains answer में अलग अलग dimensions को cover करना होता है, तो उसमें उस चीज़ को कैसे मतलब fulfill करे questions की demand को?
So there are a lot of frameworks that people used to put these abbreviations. I don't recall a lot of them, but they're like PESTEL होते हैं, जैसे like you put politically, economically, socially, technologically, legally, ethically, environmentally. वैसा dimensions you can put. Next you can put its short term, long term and medium term impacts, or you can put कि उसका regional, national or international effects क्या हो रहा है. So this is how you can base the framework and try to make it more diverse. But वो PESTEL वाला is the one which most of us follow.
Thank you, sir.
So next we'll discuss how many of you have sociology as your optional. I 30%, but beautiful optional. You have taken the right decision, I would say. So how have all of you decided your optional yet? Anyone who has not decided what should be their optional? Or are thinking to change your optional? Okay. So I'll just point out 2 minutes that what you can do to point down what should be your optional. For sociology, I had no background of sociology. I had one paper in one of my semesters at NIT about social movements in India. That's how I got introduced to sociology, and I had loved that paper. After that, I had read NCRT 11th and 12th of sociology. I had seen the syllabus of maths as well, because these were the 2 optionals that I had finalized. But I found that the length of the optional, the amount of resources that you have with that optional, and test series of that optional, and if you have the interest in that, because it would take a lot for you. So these are the things that you have to consider while choosing for optional. So if you're finding it difficult to find one, so these are the parameters that you can take into consideration while choosing an optional. So sociology, I'll briefly talk about my strategy. So I had not taken any coaching or classroom coaching for sociology as well. So for me, majority of my notes was notes of one of the previous toppers, Neha Bhosle ma'am. She was, I think, AIR 15 of past year. So she had very structured digital notes, topic-wise, for both paper 1 and paper 2. So those were my base notes. I used to read them, and those were self-explanatory. In the things that I used to not find it comprehensible, I used to Google it, see a YouTube video. So just before that, while I was starting sociology, Neha Bhosle ma'am's notes were my major notes. And then those portions in which I'll find कि नहीं है data अच्छे से, thinkers कम है. So what I do, there was Nitin Sangwan's book, which also had topic-wise content. So I used to supplement from his book with Neha Bhosle ma'am's notes. And अगर वो भी नहीं enough होता था, just Google down with the topic plus UPSC sociology, and there used to be a lot of free articles. And fourth, after doing all this, जब मुझे लगता था content is less, this is mostly पूरे later part में, main से थोड़े पहले, I had used a lot of ChatGPT, and I would ask ki, assuming I'm writing for UPSC mains exam and you are a graduate of sociology, give me the scholarly perspectives of this and this. And he used to give the ChatGPT would give me 5-6 perspectives of different thinkers. And then I have ki Indian perspectives bhi do. What are the researches have been done? So a lot of my thinkers that I used to find inadequate, I had taken from this in these 3 methods. So this were my primary content building resources that I had made. But for sociology as well, I had made topic wise notes, my own handwritten notes from Neha Musliman, from Nitin Sangwan, from random websites on website, plus ChatGPT at the later course. But apart from that, a majority of, I think, very golden material was again Vision IS's Sociology Test Series, which had appeared between prelims and mains. Before that, also had taken one test series of Reliable and Valid there on a Telegram channel, but was mostly to get introduced to answer writing practice of sociology that I had taken in the month of October, November and December after I was done with my optional and I had revised it once. So, or I used the test series to revise the concept because that was not full length test, but har roz 2 question likhne hote the. So I used to read those concepts and to write answers based on that. So, but sociology test series that I took from Vision, the quality of answers were pretty good there. And more than that, there used to be a lot of essay points which are very diverse that you can put in a lot of things. The frameworks, like there would be a framework of Ulrich Beck's risk society, or there's a concept of precariat, or there is a concept of hyperreality, or there is a concept of making up of gender. So as these were the concepts which are very diverse, and jo ki you can put in questions like, this is bar, there were questions on corporate social responsibility. Uspe also you can put in. You can put in questions of social media. So since I have paper 1 mein score 133 and paper 2 153, totaling of 286. So I'm not sure how the other people have done because marks have come out today. So, but I was fairly confident with paper 2 because I was able to use this frameworks which are usually taught in paper 1. I had used them in paper 2 as well. So apart from the conventional notes that I had, these diverse points that I had got during my test series at Vision, that I was able to use brilliantly at various different places. And how I used to write my answers was most of the time point wise and sometimes in paragraph. But essay be also, if you're writing in point, like if the point question is what's the sociological dimension of corporate social responsibility, so point 1 mein that I'll introduce that with 2 words and then I'll write 1 line or 2 line. Then point 2 pe also I'll introduce with 2-3 words. So there has to be a heading of every point, and uske upar you write 2-3 points. So usse the clarity also becomes better. And third point in sociology is very important to understand the demand of the question, because more or less it's the same thing that they ask, but it's becoming more thought-provoking. So you have to understand the question, understand ki what is being asked and not what you know. Because itna content ho jata hai in sociology, a lot of thinkers you mug up, there will be a natural urge to put it sab kuch. But nahi, you'll have to find out ki kaun sa apt hai, which is zyada, it's more suitable for the answer, and that's how you have to put in. And the third is ki if you do not have thinkers in a question, then what you can do is just write school of thoughts. There's functional school of thoughts, there is conflict school of thoughts, there's feminist school of thoughts, there is liberal school of thoughts, neo-Marxist school of thoughts. There's a lot of school of thought that will come across, and you can just put them. Agar kuch nahi aata, do not know the thinkers, and that you can put down. And another one that I had found very unique was Indian Express. Indian Express mein a lot of columnists who are right are still sociologists who are alive, and they're very active in India. So paper 2 ke liye have borrowed a lot of ideas from Indian Express articles that I used to read while in office. So not just those things, because I had known that these are the sociologists that write. So because alphabetically order hota hai in Indian Express, and you can figure out who are the ones who are writing articles related to sociology topics. So unhi ke articles I used to follow, and jo bhi point अच्छे लगते थे, that I used to just note down somewhere. So that also gave me points which are very unique and plus very recent, जो कि were happening at like current affairs based. So those became also one of my value addition material for paper 2. So I think I had scored more in paper 2 because I was more creative in that, and I had these things that I had used which I would have made a difference as compared to, because paper 1 is usually more scoring than paper 2, but I had found paper 2 more interesting than paper 1. And for sociology, another one thing is that I had written a lot of answers, and most of them were not evaluated because I used to just write it, because you should have that knack of writing in sociology. So I had written in the month of October, November and December from Reliable and Valid. And after prelims were done, then also for brief period of time, 15-20 days, and had not started sociology test series at Vision Eyes, then also used to write 2 questions per day. Like you a habit build up ho. And then had started full length test series after prelims from Vision, got them evaluated. The evaluation process was swift and quick, and that's how the entire sociology strategy was. So if you have doubts about sociology and sociology strategy, then we can have questions now. Yeah.
गुड इवनिंग सर.
Good evening.
सर आइडली एक दिन में कितने सब्जेक्ट्स कवर करने चाहिए, एक वो पूछना था.
Okay, I mean not sociology,
हाँ,
but
सोशियोलॉजी से नहीं है.
For me it was like 3 things that I used to do together. One is one core subject, and then one is sociology, and one is current affairs. So 2 hours, so 6 hours essay.
और सर एनसीईआरटी पढ़ना ज़्यादा सही रहेगा या फिर समरी बुक्स आती हैं मार्केट में वो भी सही हैं, तो उनमें
I had read NCERT only for geography mostly. So apart from that, R.S. Sharma NCERT I had read. So I would not be able to comment कि वो उनकी quality summarization क्या होता है, but NCERT I think you can read it. NCERT का तो you should not find compilations.
ओके, थैंक यू सर.
गुड इवनिंग सर. सर जैसे हम कोई एक टॉपिक करते हैं, एक चैप्टर कंप्लीट करते हैं, तो कई बार ये होता है कि हमने जो पढ़ रहे हैं उसमें पीछे जो पहले पढ़ा है उसमें कन्फ्यूज़न होती है, तो उसे कैसे मतलब टैकल करें?
मल्टीपल रिविजन्स विल हेल्प इन दैट. कि होता है कि भूल जाते हैं, बट मेक श्योर कि आप जो आज पढ़ रहे हो वो 1.5 month बाद फिर से पढ़े उन सबको, देन इट गेट्स मोर इंटरनलाइज्ड. बट बिफोर यू टेक इन क्वेश्चन, इफ देयर इज एनी क्वेश्चन रिलेटेड टू सोशियोलॉजी, लेट्स कवर दैट, and then we'll end it with interview and general questions.
So, as in sociology and essay, in both we have seen, Sahih.
Yeah.
So in sociology and essay, we have seen like most of the questions nowadays are difficult to interpret. Like most of the essay topics are also difficult to interpret. Like I have heard one of the toppers saying like he interpreted question differently what the teacher interpreted post exam. So how far you just agree to that objective reality of that particular topic of the or this question, and or do you believe in the subjective understanding of that particular reality, like objective reality?
So for essay you can that can happen because a lot of philosophical topics that happen. I mean the core message of that might not be very debatable, but the way you interpret it with various examples is something that's very debatable, and there's no right answer to it. But for GS-based questions and sociology to a point as well, I don't think it's very debatable, and the objectivity still remains. I mean, there could be questions in sociology as well which could be abstract. Or like for example, there are questions like, do you think R.K. Mutton's theory of reference model is it universal? So you can have a lot of interpretations to it and can support this with various viewpoints. But otherwise, more or less, objectivity remains.
And sir, did you follow some current affairs magazine like for the sociology and like value addition something?
Indian Express I had followed, but like I knew ki kaun se columnists I have to follow, so I used to read their articles. After mains were done, I had taken a subscription of EPW because I was bored and I had to read more sociology. But for the sake of exams, I had not followed EPW or other magazines.
Thank you so much, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So we have common subjects in 2 papers.
Yeah.
Like religion and caste system. So what was the approach of writing in each paper? I mean, how did you answer differently in both the papers?
I think I had, like, if it's a paper 1 religion question, then I used to quote something which is more universal and the international thinkers or concepts of religion or things like that. But when it came to India, it used to be the theories and perspectives of Indian thinkers. But having said that, I had liberally used first paper ke thinkers in second paper and second paper ke thinkers also in first paper, but to an extent you cannot make one question of paper 1 ke every thinker would be an Indian thinker, then it's a limited one, but you can interchange the thinkers in both the cases.
Yes, sir. And the second question is, for second paper, we lacked the authors. So what was your approach? I mean, how did you find the authors for second paper to answer?
So apart from the usual, the bigger authors that we have in the paper 2, I'd read them. But like for example, Dipankar Gupta, Andre Bette, Louis Dumo, all these people's views I had seen, like I'd made simpler notes, like the material that I'd used, these had these smaller notes. So I knew ki Paul Brass is something who talks about politics. So anything about politics, I would mention Paul Brass because he would have a viewpoint about that. So there used to be thinkers who had done about religion, religious fundamentalism in India. There would be, for caste, Andre Bette had done a lot of work. Louis Dumo has done a lot of work. So that has to work. There would be sociologists who had done on urban sociology. So I'd remember कि इनका specialization is this. I might not be very aware कि उनका exact word क्या था, but I used to mention these sociological thinkers who would have worked in that area, and that cognizance and that knowledge came in due course. ऐसा नहीं कि day one से I knew कि Paul Brass कौन है. Like after you read, you understand कि Paul Brass is something who was a borderline also political scientist. So that's where you will get the knowledge.
So like in Indian Express, there are authors who are sociologists. So can we mention in the paper, in the second paper?
Yeah, that I've done. A lot of things I had done, written in the paper that I've read 2 weeks back in the paper. And there are actual sociologists who keep on writing, like Nivedita Menon, Dipankar Gupta, Abhijit Sen Gupta, Christopher Jeffrey Lott. All these people keep on writing. So you can keep an eye on them.
So last question. So the current affairs, did you include in your answer the current which was happening in India or in abroad in your answer?
Yes. So for example, there's a religious fundamentalism question. So I'd mention there was a time when new Haryana violence was happening. So I'd mention that, but there was an article about a sociologist who would have written about new violence. So I'd written this sociologist feel कि ऐसा new violence ऐसा हुआ था. There's a question on reverse migration. So Dipankar Gupta का Indian Express में there was an article on reverse migration. So I'll write कि reverse migration COVID के time पे हो रहा है, and as said by Dipankar Gupta. So the current examples, but also mostly current examples. अगर हो सके तो कौन thinker उसके बारे में अभी बात कर रहा है. But if it's not there, then you can just write school of thought as example, which is more relevant abhi. I think that adds more beauty to the answer. Yeah.
सर आई हैव अ क्वेश्चन दैट कि इतना वास्ट सिलेबस है यूपीएससी का और आप बोल रहे हो कि कंपाइल 2 और 3 पेज में नोट्स बना करके उसको रिवीजन कर सकते हैं, तो वो 2-3 पेज का नोट्स हम कैसे बनाएं?
So that comes after you read that source after 2 or 3 times. वो कैसे बनाना है that you'll understand कि कौन सा important है. First बार पढ़ के नहीं होगा. You'll have to read twice and thrice and then you'll be able to make notes.
Then सर हम बहुत सारे ऐसे टॉपिक होते हैं जो भूल जाते हैं, तो उतना सारा वास्ट सिलेबस और करंट अफेयर उसमें इंक्लूड हो जाता है, तो उसको याद करना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है.
I mean मुश्किल तो है, पर like you have to follow a fixed template. मतलब करंट और स्टैटिक को अलग मत सोचिए. Like if there is a question on wetlands, तो wetlands is also static topic but also dynamic topic. तो आपकी A4 शीट में will have the static portion, map होगा, benefits होगा, क्या उसमें problems हो रहे हैं, also क्या क्या नए चीज़ें हो रही हैं wetlands में कि ये नए wetlands मिले हैं इसके बारे में, so that you can put that as an introduction कि 75 years में 75 wetlands हुए हैं and these are the new wetlands आप map कर सकते हैं. So उनको एक साथ also you can integrate.
तो उसका स्ट्रैटेजी मतलब किस तरह से उसको पैटर्नाइज कर सकते हैं कि हमें इजी हो उसको याद करने में?
मल्टीपल रिविजन, देयर इज नो सब्स्टिट्यूट टू दैट. आप बार बार उसी को रिवाइज करते रहे, अगर नहीं आ रहा तो उसे लिखिए. फिर लाइक मुझे ज्योग्राफी नहीं याद रहती थी तो समझ नहीं आता, टू राइट दैट. मुझे डर खत्म होता था.
बिकॉज आई हैव प्रॉब्लम टू, जैसे कि मैं याद करता हूँ तो बहुत जल्दी भूल भी जाता हूँ बहुत चीज़ों को, तो इस वजह से मैं पूछ रहा हूँ कि जैसे उसको कंपाइल कैसे कर सकते हैं कि जैसे आपने कहा 2-3 पेज में, क्योंकि हमें लास्ट टाइम पे सोर्सेज बहुत कम करनी होती है कि हम इतना ही रिवाइज कर सके, तो इस वजह से सर पूछ रहा हूँ कि वो
तो वॉट एवर नोट्स यू हैव वो सेम नोट्स आपके लास्ट तक नहीं रहेंगे, वो नोट्स छोटी छोटी होती जाएंगे. सो सिंस यू स्टार्टिंग इट्स प्रीटी नेचुरल टू फील दैट वे, बट वो आप जो चीज़ अभी आपको लग रही है 10 मिनट याद रखने में, वो बाद में 2 मिनट बन जाएगी. तो फिर और ऐसे बहुत सारी चीज़ें होंगी जो आपको नोट्स में पढ़ने की ज़रूरत नहीं, बिकॉज वो आपके अंदर इंटरनलाइज हो जाएगा. that should not be in your notes. Your notes should have only those things which you will forget, not the things that you know. So वैसे करते करते you'll like vertically filter out हो जाएगा आपके notes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sir, should give a sectional test for socio?
Yes, yes, as in the Vision Sociology test series that had sectional and then full length. But the sectional was also 250 marks, but it was sectional in nature and not the entire syllabus. You should. You can also start with एक दिन में 2 questions, because for longer part, before prelims I had written 2 questions per day. So to initiate the habit of answer writing for sociology. So you can do that also, 2 questions per day or 3 questions per day.
Sir, apart from Indian Express, did you follow any other sources for current affairs for socio?
For current affairs for socio, no, I have not followed any other source. But as I said कि वो sociology test series में also the answers में थे, उसमें also a lot of current affairs things and current sociology thinkers perspectives were there. So उससे I had done a lot of value addition as well, the Vision IS test series.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Hi, sir.
Yeah, hi.
First of all, congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, how do you make notes from newspaper for the both mains and prelims and mains perspective, sir?
So I have not made any notes from newspaper except sociology के लिए वो viewpoints, but I also find it very difficult कि कैसे बनाएंगे, because it's too dynamic. So I, in my own personal experience, coaching magazines are already a note-based material which compiles the various sources newspaper. So I had used coaching magazines and not newspaper for both prelims mains. So I had not made notes from newspapers.
Thank you, sir.
If we're done for sociology, then I'll swiftly go to interview and then we can just have a couple of questions and then we can end.
Hello, sir. Sir, here.
Yeah.
Sir, while attempting a question for the mains perspective, there are certain questions on which we became blank completely. So, sir, how to approach those questions so that we can get a decent mark instead of leaving them completely?
So good question. In my opinion, you should not leave one question. I was able to complete all questions of all papers, and I believe that कि नहीं 20 questions मतलब सारे 20 questions should be written. But obviously, out of 20 questions, there would be at least 3-4 questions which you'll have partial knowledge or even no knowledge. But कुछ भी हो, if there's a word that you know, उसके बारे में write an introduction about it or make a diagram about it. कुछ at least you'll get 2 marks in that, and that makes a difference. ऐसे 4 question करके 8 marks in 4 papers, 32 marks. I mean that's a lot. So you should write all. जिसमें नहीं आता है, write something. Beat around the bush, but कुछ ना कुछ तो लिखना है.
Thank you, sir.
So if you're done with sociology, I'll just brief upon interview. I mean, you're preparing for 2025, so you'll still have time. But I did not score like high marks in interview. I have 175, which is pretty average as compared to this year. I had my interview in the first week itself, so I did not have a lot of time for preparation. But it's just that most of your preparation for interview will be like 2 aspects will be involved. One is your DAF and one will be your general awareness. Your DAF may every word becomes important. Where you have graduated, what was the parents doing, where are you born, when you were born, what was happening on your birthday, जिस दिन आप birthday के दिन क्या significant चीजें हुई हैं, and what is the meaning of your name. So every word becomes significant and you have to go deeper in that. And it's a fun process because you get to introspect a lot. अपने area के बारे में और ज़्यादा जानते हैं, अपने profession, company के बारे में ज़्यादा जानते हैं. And second is general awareness. उसके लिए you have to stick to, I was recommended 2 different newspapers, one Hindu or Indian Express and another more economy oriented, Economic Times or Money Control or any of these papers. But since I did not have time, I had only 20 days, I had only read Indian Express at that time and made my own personalized notes for my DAF based content. And you can give mocks, and I mean the utility of mocks is still there. A lot of times you will be put into the situation in which you do not have an answer, and the mocks will teach you how to be calm, patient, and to behave in that manner. But since I did not have a lot of good marks in interview, I do not have a lot of credibility to speak how can ace that. But that's something which will be a very pretty interesting part of the process, and interview is the one which is the most fun as compared to prelims and mains. So we'll take last couple of questions about general preparation or anything, any motivation, or if general preparation things, then we can wind it up. Yeah.
Sir, can we prepare for state PCS along with UPSC?
Yeah, so if you're a full-time aspirant and if you see there's a growing convergence, like for Odisha, I can say the syllabus has been updated in such a way that the UPSC and OPSC, Odisha Public Service Commission's civil service exams are exactly same, the syllabus. I did not prepare for both, even though I had filled the form for OPSC, but I could not appear the prelims. So I had not appeared for it. But if you think that you can, then and you're okay with it, then you should do that.
Thank you, sir.
So like you shared initially in the start of the session itself about the difficulties you had to face. So how did you win the game in your mind, like before embarking on this journey? Like I will be able to do this. Like how did you convince yourself about this thing? Like what's the process you followed for this?
So this was a very personal setback that I had. I was dealing with such an ugly disease which is associated with my only parent that I had. So for me, the fuel was itself that I have less time and I have to do it as soon as possible, because I know the outcome of it. And every day was full of anxiety. For last 2 years, I have the video calls of every day with my mother, because I would fear ki, what if today is my last call with her? So this anxiety was always there, and I think that anxiety was the fuel that helped me कि नहीं, अगर ये anxiety है तो आज पढ़ना पड़ेगा, otherwise नहीं हो पाएगा सपना पूरा. So you do not have to go through ये so that you will become motivated, because everybody has their own struggle and everybody has their own story. Grief and struggle cannot be compared and quantified. But I think you have to capitalize on those anxiety, those fear, and usi pe you have to work. As in, I used to also feel कि अगर UPSC नहीं होगा, then I'll feel like a failure. It was the biggest fear of my life कि if UPSC doesn't happen, then the dream of my entire childhood, my entire life will get quashed away, which is a very unhealthy way of thinking so, but that fear would help me to overcome my anxiety. So that's how I think I had developed my mindset.
Hello. Sir, how to maintain consistency? Because this exam is true vast. So I think, sir, after 20 day या 20 या 30 day break आ जाती है बीच में, तो maintain वो कैसे करके रखें?
So ensure कि आएगा वैसा boredom, but make sure कि you have enough breaks up. You can go at a vacation or talk to your friends regularly. I was always in touch with my school friends, and we used to share random things about our everyday day-to-day activities. I did not isolate myself. I was an active on Instagram as well, which I'm not endorsing, you should be as well. But I did not isolate कि ऐसे कि सिर्फ पढ़ना है and सिर्फ यही चीज़ें हैं life में. I was going to job. I was pretty social. तो it's that अगर boredom हो रही है तो क्यों हो रही है, तो उसको निकालने के लिए also go and talk to your people, go and talk to your support system. Breaks ले लो, and also it's healthy to not sit for longer. हर 1 घंटे में break लो, 45 minutes में 5 minute का break लो. That's helpful.
So another question is just how to cover sociology thinkers.
So sociology thinkers also ठीक है, like initially बहुत difficult लगता है. What I had done is that कि while I had my major notes that I had done, उसके बाद I had a small notebook जिसमें मैंने सिर्फ thinkers लिखा था topic wise उस notes से, ताकि एग्जाम से पहले दिन मैं सिर्फ थिंकर्स पढ़ लूँ, बिकॉज थिंकर्स से ही पॉइंट्स बनते हैं एंड दे गिव यू पर्सपेक्टिव्स. सो लास्ट के टाइम पे मैं सोशियोलॉजी रिवीजन वाज जस्ट ओनली थिंकर्स. तो आप अपने नोट्स के बाद सिर्फ थिंकर्स का और अलग से एक नोट्स बना सकते हैं विच यू कैन रिवाइज अगेन एंड अगेन.
ओके, थैंक यू सर.
सर, last. Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
Many congratulations for your achievement.
Thank you.
So my question is, when one should give his or her first attempt? when you're prepared thoroughly, you have covered all the syllabus, then you should go for first attempt, or just go the peer group is giving, or you have just prepared randomly?
Your first attempt should be when you start कि मुझे देना है UPSC and you think कि 2025 is the first attempt, so no matter what 2025 has to be next attempt. ऐसा नहीं कि ठीक है अभी पढ़ लेते हैं, I'll see कि एग्जाम कैसे होता है, next year तो is my year. नहीं, if until unless you have this mindset कि 2025 ही मेरा first attempt final attempt है, you won't be able to get that mindset. So it's not about peers, it's not कि मेरा पूरा हो जाएगा तब, it's rather the other way around कि आपका decided है कि ये first attempt है and then you're preparing, and not कि आप prepare कर रहे हैं and फिर decide करें कि इस बार देंगे या नहीं. So you'll have to fix कि यही year है, first attempt है.
Sir, thank you. Second question is, when you start solving the test series, can you please tell how much marks you was fetching initially and then how you improved in those test series?
So for keeping an example of visions tests, initially I used to score in, also it depends on subjects. Art and culture ke test mein I used to score 60s. On political scores mein I used to score 110s or 120s. But overall if you say full length tests mein, initially I started with 60s, 70s, and then max towards pure end mein also I used to score 95 to 100 on good tests. I used to hardly cover 100, 105 used to be max. उसके ऊपर नहीं जाते थे मेरे prelims के tests में. But I was very consistent. Last के एक month में it was always 90 to 100, 90 to 100, 90 to 100.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
So could you please share with us some of the questions you were being asked by the interview panel, or what kind of questions you were being asked? Were it from GS or from your personal background?
So my board was Lieutenant General Raj Shukla sir's board, and most of the questions were GS based. I mean, there were a little bit of interlinking based on my personal background, the place I come from, Odisha, and I come from a technology background, so a lot of computer science ki theory that I had studied in second and third year. So wo sab pe bhi questions tha, but mostly about general issues that were happening during that time.
What should be approach of daily study? One subject at a time or multiple subject?
So I would say कि like I used to read general studies का एक subject at one time, because एक तो current affair भी पढ़ना है, general studies पढ़ना है, एक optional पढ़ना है. तो अगर जिस time पे you are not reading optional, then you can read 2 GS. Otherwise, 1 GS was what I had followed at one time. One subject at one time.
Sir, how we can approach, sir, how we can connect our notes in answer writing?
So आपके notes ही वैसे बनेंगे in answer format only, कि उस notes is also like introduction, issues, how can you recommendations, कैसा implementation क्या हुआ है, diagrams क्या हुआ है, and value addition. वो notes ही answer की तरह बनाइए कि आपको सिर्फ reproduce करना पड़े, and ना कि सोच के फिर लिखे. आप ऐसे जब notes बना रहे हैं सोचिए कि इसका अगर question हो तो कैसे answer में लिखा जाए. So that's how your notes should be.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, how much time you study in a day?
I had 5 to 6 hours in a day. I mean, I have not been seeing what is happening, but I have gotten a lot of online hate by saying that I was reading 5 to 6 and not 15, 16 hours. But that's the truth, that I did not have more time. So 5 to 6 was honestly is what I had studied.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
On your success. Sir, while focusing on your work life as well as study life, so you're left with not much of the time, not hefty of the time. So how are you managing this, the work life and the study life both at the same time? Because they have their prior commitments and these have also their prior commitments. So what is the order of preference like you were looking at?
So for me, while I was working at Indian Oil for 8 hours or 9 hours, and then I used to forget it as an aspirant. Apart from the lunch breaks and coffee breaks where I used to read something about UPSC, but otherwise while I'm working, I used to not think about what I'll study today. And while I was preparing back at home, I used to not think about what happened at work. So I was able to do the context switching very swiftly. So that's what my priority is. While I'm doing something, I will not think about the other thing.
Sir,
Yes.
सर पीवाईक्यू को बोलते हैं कि यूपीएससी की प्रिपरेशन में मेजर रोल प्ले करता है, मीन्स प्रिपरेशन स्टार्ट करने के पहले ही जितना हो सके एनालाइज कर लेना चाहिए। आप कुछ टिप्स दे सकते हैं कि आपने पीवाईक्यू को कैसे टैकल किया था अपने प्रिपरेशन में?
So very unpopular opinion and everybody had said that, but I had made that mistake कि for prelims I had not solved PYQ till very last. तो जब March April के time पे I had purchased one book compilation of prelims questions. तो I had started, तो most of the questions I had read it somewhere the other courses में. तो I could not do वो कि strategy की PYQ में ऐसे आ रहे हैं तो ऐसे पढ़ो. I could not do that, but that is how it should have been. But sociology के लिए what I used to do is कि I used to see previous year questions and फिर notes बनाता था कि फिर मुझे पता चल जाता था कि notes कैसे बनाने हैं, कि ऐसे topics पे आ रहे तो ऐसे the quality of my notes should be in this direction. So for mains and sociology I used to एक बार glance through, but prelims के लिए a lot of people say and that say it right, but I could not analyze and then solve question, but because I had solved it at the later part before prelims.
बट सर जैसा कि हर साल पेपर का क्वेश्चन का नेचर चेंज हो रहा है, ट्रेंड चेंज हो रहा है, तो उसको थोड़ा टैकल करने के लिए मीन्स उसके लिए कैसे प्रिपेयर्ड हो खुद के?
उसके लिए हैव टू बी रेडी फॉर सरप्राइजेस. एक तो लाइक हर बार कुछ ना कुछ नया आएगा, तो यू हैव टू कीप इन माइंड कि देयर विल बी समथिंग न्यू, बट जो हमारे पास कंट्रोलेबल है, स्टैटिक पोर्शन है, उस पर यू हैव टू बी स्ट्रॉन्गर. करंट इज टू वास्ट, उस पर ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा, बट यू कैन नॉट गो रॉन्ग विथ स्टैटिक. तो स्टैटिक को डू नॉट इग्नोर. सो विल टेक आई थिंक लास्ट क्वेश्चन एंड आई
वन मोर सर. सर करंट अफेयर्स कितने मीन्स प्रीलिम्स मई में होता है, मई जून में, तो उससे पहले कितने टाइम का करंट अफेयर्स कवर करना चाहिए?
10 to 12 months should be done. I have done 8 to 10 months ka, but a year is sufficient.
Thank you, sir.
So I think last question. I'm really sorry. I'll take the last question there.
Sir.
Hello. Good
Yeah.
evening, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, it's a general question about current affairs. सर एक सबसे बड़ा फियर होता है कि मतलब जीएस तो एक साथ पढ़ रहे हैं, पर करंट अफेयर सर जो टॉपिक है पॉलिटी की या फिर ज्योग्राफी, मतलब जो भी टॉपिक्स हैं सर, उससे क्या मतलब अगर डर ये रहता है कि सर मतलब कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि छूट रहा हो सर, मतलब चूँकि इतने सारे सोर्सेज हैं करंट अफेयर्स के, आप चाह कर भी उसको सारा कवर नहीं कर पाएंगे सर.
ऑब्वियसली नहीं कर पाएंगे, तो इसीलिए जो भी एक सोर्स है उसको बहुत अच्छे से करें, ताकि ऐसा ना हो कि जो पढ़ा था उससे छूट जाए, रादर दैन कि जो नहीं पढ़ा तो नहीं पढ़ा, बट एक कोई भी अच्छा सोर्स लीजिए एंड उसको इतना अच्छा पढ़े कि उसके अराउंड कुछ भी क्वेश्चन हो तो यू शुड नॉट मेक एनीथिंग रॉन्ग.
सर मैं अगर अपनी बात करूं तो सर न्यूज़पेपर में डेली बेसिस पे पढ़ता हूं, पर मैं उसके नोट्स नहीं बनाता हूं सर. तो सर पर अभी सर आपको सुनने के बाद ऐसा लगा कि मतलब मैं शायद गलती कर रहा हूं पिछले 6-7 महीने से, क्योंकि सर
नहीं, एवरीबडी विल हैव अ डिफरेंट स्ट्रैटेजी. यू माइट बी अ फुल टाइम एस्पिरेंट, यू हैव टाइम.
यस सर.
एंड इट्स अ स्टैटिस्टिकली प्रूवन थिंग कि न्यूज़पेपर इज बेटर. सो I am a very smaller part of the sample space. So you are doing the best thing. Rather, I was the one who had done the wrong thing. तो न्यूज़पेपर अगर आपको लगता है एंड आप टेस्ट दीजिए कि उससे अगर आपके बन पा रहे क्वेश्चंस, देन आप कीजिए. बट अदरवाइज अगर सिर्फ न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ रहे हैं एंड अगर आपको कुछ लगता है उससे नोट्स बनाना है, तो मेक थिंग्स, कुछ ओपिनियन, कोई कोड लिख दिया, कोई डेटा, तो उसके कंपाइलेशंस यू कैन स्टार्ट. Also one more thing I had followed that I had like since we talked here, there were also notes of Apala Mishra who had this topic-wise notes, value addition material as well in her Telegram channel that also had liberally used for all the papers.
Yeah. सर बट रिवीजन के लिए सर कैसे हो पाएगा सर? मतलब अगर मैंने पढ़े न्यूज़पेपर से तो सर कई चीज़ें तो सर दिमाग से निकल जाती हैं, तो सर लास्ट मोमेंट पे सर रिवीजन के लिए पर मतलब कुछ सोर्सेज रखने पड़ेंगे ना सर?
That's why I did not read from newspaper and read from coaching institute. मेरे हिसाब से coaching institute did a ओवरऑल कवरेज, तो इसीलिए आई डिड दैट. एंड न्यूज़पेपर आप पढ़ सकते हो टू गेन थोड़ा अवेयरनेस, और कहीं ना कहीं वो रजिस्टर होता है माइंड में, तो आप यू कैन सप्लीमेंट दैट विथ कोचिंग मटेरियल एंड न्यूज़पेपर अगर आप नोट नहीं बना पा रहे हैं. बट डू नॉट लीव न्यूज़पेपर जस्ट बिकॉज आई हैड नॉट रेड इट.
सर जैसे कि बजट सेक्शन और बाकी चीज़ों पे होता है, इस पे सर आपने बनाए थे सर? मतलब
यस, आई हैड लाइक बजट के टाइम पे विजन के कंपाइलेशन आते हैं, and I had that time I had seen Vivek Singh sir की also YouTube video आई थी एक, and vision के compilation जो budget और economic survey के लिए आती है, that I had followed.
Thank you sir.
Thank you. So we'll just wind up in last 2 minutes. I just want to extend my heartfelt gratitude that I understand it was long, I mean, while I used to watch the topper videos, I used to take at least 50 breaks and see. And I, as a speaker, I'm not someone who is not very entertaining as well, I understand. But thank you for sitting through this. And I hope that you excel and do better than me and achieve the preferred services, preferred cadres, or whatever you want to do. But understand, whenever you feel like giving up, remember that why did you start, and that would give you a prime motivation. I had gone through a severe personal setback while doing this, but that does not mean that you'll have to go through something of that intensity to understand that why you do want to do that. You can have your own reasons. Every reason is valid until unless your intent is ethical and right. So hold on to hope. Hope is really the most beautiful thing, and that's if you'll hold on to that hope, I'm pretty sure you will pass with flying colors. And all the best to everybody, and may the next couple of years be your year, and nobody should steal that from you.